Good afternoon. Welcome back to Football League World TV. It's time for the latest episode of Under the Microscope, and here we're looking ahead to the first playoff game of the season that sees Wycombe take on MK Dons tonight in League One. I'm your host, Dagless, and joining me this afternoon are Marcus Ally and Billy Mulley. Marcus, how are you?
Yeah, really well, thanks. I think this is sort of like almost Christmas in the EFL, waiting for the playoffs to come around. So yeah, we've got a couple of leagues to round off this weekend, but it's nice to have sort of League One playoffs kicking off a little bit early to give us a taste of the action. I'm sure it'd be a bit of a thriller maybe at Adams Park this evening.
Yeah, it should be an exciting game. Billy, how are you?
Yeah, looking forward to it. As Marcus says, could be an absolute thriller. I'm sure we'll get on to how exciting this game could be. But yeah, I'm supposed to be there for the second leg, so I'm hoping that it's not all done by tonight.
Yeah, hopefully we set up nicely for you, Billy, for you to go to the second leg. Next week, Wycombe and MK Dons fans, we're across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter live for the next 20 or so minutes. Let us know what your thoughts ahead of tonight's game. Let's get going. I guess it probably makes sense to start with looking at the team seasons in general first of all. Marcus, we'll come to you and talk Wycombe, given they're the home side tonight. Snuck into the playoffs in some respects, didn't they? A few may have written them off or expected other teams, Plymouth, for example, to be in the top six come this point of the year. But Wycombe have done it. How would you look back on their season, though? Perhaps one that they may have expected more from, given they were in the Championship last year?
That's not the way I'm looking at it, to be honest. I've been really impressed with Wycombe. We've given it the billing so many times about this being one of the strongest, if not the strongest, League One in a very long time. So I think for a club the size of Wycombe Wanderers, given their budget and the individuals in their squad, to finish sixth in that season is very impressive. A few months ago, I was definitely expecting the likes of, Oxford United for certain, and probably Plymouth as well, to finish above the Chairboys. But yeah, they finished very strongly, able to tighten up at the back. Really successfully grabbed a vital 1-0 win over Sheffield Wednesday in the penultimate fixture of the League One campaign. And I think they come into this one 12 games unbeaten in the league. So yeah, in really good shape. And yeah, they rallied extremely well. Obviously, the points tallies have been quite incredible, even with sides missing out on the playoffs this season. So they've had to be just that little bit better. In another season, they might have been a lot closer to the automatic promotion conversation. So no, I think it's an excellent achievement in itself for Wycombe to finish sixth. And they'll definitely relish being the underdogs going into this playoffs.
And Billy, Wycombe, as we've mentioned, did kind of sneak in there at the end of the season. Do you think they'll almost see this perhaps as a free hit now? Perhaps they weren't expecting to be in the playoffs, and that might help them. A sense of nothing to lose, everything to gain at this point, and that kind of freedom may well take them to Wembley and back to the Championship.
I guess so, because if you speak about expectations, I think MK Dons finishing so close to the automatics, you think of the size of Sunderland and Sheffield Wednesday, you probably say they're expected to not progress or not even get promoted. But in a way, that's quite strange given how they ended the Championship season last year. They ended it very strong. There wasn't too many changes. I know the likes of Onyedinma departed, so did Uche Ikpeatsu, but they've managed to replace that, and they've managed to deal with the voids that were left in the squad in that sense. And I think looking at their season on a whole reflection, it's an 83-point total, which, most other seasons that probably get you into third or even fourth. So it's in my eyes, I feel like I'm leaning towards a sort of a view similar to Marcus, that that they might not have the expectations, they might not have the squads around them, but they are there for a reason, and they continue to surpass expectations. And it's becoming a point where you sort of do expect Wycombe now to do well, even if they don't have sort of the resources around them. But it's just sort of the infrastructure in place at the club, and sort of the Gareth Ainsworth factor as well. It's really good to see, and I think that's what makes it a really exciting tie, the unpredictability of it.
As for MK Dons, Marcus, what a fantastic season they had. I don't think many would have been expecting them to finish third at the top of the campaign, given that Russell Martin had left and Liam Manning, who was largely unknown in this country, had come in. But fantastic job he's done. Narrowly missed out on the top two. Surely they go into this playoff battle now in terms of all four teams as favourites?
It's a tough one. I think definitely this tie that they do take the favourites tag quite comfortably. I think Sheffield Wednesday would have something to say about whether they're favourites to win promotion out of the four sides. If Bannon's missing for Wednesday, which we'll find out in the next couple of days, I probably would make MK favourites. But if not, I think it's quite close. The form that Darren Moore's side have put together since the turn of the year, given that they were further down the table than the Dons, has probably been quite similar. I expected MK to form some kind of playoff push at the start of the season when Russell Martin was in the post, but so I did have my doubts when he left whether they would be able to really keep their names in the conversation for that long. But yeah, Manning's completely exceeded my expectations. It's no surprise to see him being linked with the jobs that he has been. Of course, if the Dons don't end up getting promoted this season. But no, it's been an outstanding campaign. They've managed to gel quite a lot of younger players in the squad, some that were there last season as well, and have been able to carry on that promise and their development to hit new heights this season. And they've definitely had a very positive January transfer window as well, which I think we then saw an upturn in form come from that. So no, they've been very impressive, and that they definitely walk in as rightful favourites against Wycombe. It's just as Billy alluded towards, the Gareth Ainsworth factor. You can't write them off at all.
And Billy, MK Dons obviously narrowly missed out on the top two. Sometimes that can work against a team coming into the playoff because they can feel deflated. They were going for the top two, obviously, and they've just missed out. Do you think the Dons are at risk of that in these playoff games?
Not really, because I think we got a glimpse to the mindset of MK Dons in the sort of second half against Plymouth. Came out and were fully firing, even though it became apparent at half-time that it wasn't looking likely that they could seal automatic promotion with a victory. So, I think in that respect that they've shown already that they do possess the mindset under Liam Manning. It's quite interesting what Marcus says there about who goes into this favourites, because MK Dons obviously have been excellent all season, and I feel MK Dons have the slight easier tie on reflection of things, and that's probably why overall they could be deemed as favourites. But then if Sheffield Wednesday do get through against Sunderland, obviously a clash of titans, as we've already alluded to, then I think it might be Sheffield Wednesday that do take that favourites tie. The favourites tag. But looking at anything that could happen, I think we'll go on to it in a little bit. But the clash of styles and the way that the two teams have got here. Everything to do with this tie looks so promising, and it's the same with the other game as well. I don't think that the games within the playoffs could have worked out as favourable as they have. We've got a Buckinghamshire derby, and then we've got two of the biggest teams to ever have graced League One playing against each other. It's as we said before, it's going to be a truly great few days in League One before we find out who the finalists are.
Yeah, certainly exciting set of games. Let's look ahead then to the potential lineups and how these two match up. This is via Who Scored. We should just give them a bit of credit first of all. Marcus, let's talk Wycombe's strengths. You look at that team. They're a well-drilled team. They obviously know what they're doing, and Gareth Ainsworth's been there for a long time. Whereabouts can they cause issues for MK Dons this evening?
Well, I think quite a lot of their sort of ways that they're expecting to hurt the Dons could be on the counter-attack. I expect MK to have the lion's share of possession, and for Wycombe to be all right with that, to be honest, to be happy to sit in a low block, stay organised, and then try and hurt them in transition, which makes me wonder if some of the more maybe athletic players might get a start ahead of some of the players. I think that's an unchanged side from their win at Burton, last weekend. Looking at the front line, I think it's even better than the one that they got promoted with in 2019-20, to be honest. I know Sam Vokes and Gareth McCleary are arguably on the way down in their careers, but they haven't looked like it this season. McCleary's got 18 goal involvements in all competitions, and Ainsworth has been able to get the best out of those players, even though they are sort of well past 30 now. So I would look at those two in Vokes and McCleary in particular. MK cannot afford to give McCleary too much space and time on the ball, because yeah, his dribbling ability is right up there in League One, and as a senior player in the squad, he'll be really looking to step up on the big occasion tonight. So I probably look at McCleary as a key player, and then also set pieces are massive for Wycombe. Always have been under Gareth Ainsworth, and then Joe Jacobson's delivery is right up there in League One as well. Was such a big weapon when they won promotion from the playoffs in 2019-20. So I think he's a huge player once again, particularly from dead ball situations. So I look at those players that could hurt them on the counter attack. Jordan Abita's got, I think, 2 in his last 2 games, so comes into the match in a bit of form. But yeah, I expect the Dons to have the vast majority of possession and Wycombe to try and hurt them on the counter attacks. But yeah, having a figure like Vokes to be able to hit and relieve pressure could be massive. So that's the duo that I think Wycombe will really look to for inspiration tonight.
Are there areas, Marcus, that you worry about in this Wycombe team?
They've got a few injuries at the back and in midfield, so possibly. And I do think the width could hurt them. Kane Kessler-Hayden at right wing back for MK Dons is a player that I don't think will be in League One next season, whether they get promoted or not, on loan from Aston Villa. And I think that could be really crucial in how MK could break them down. But having said that, I think, yeah, Wycombe will stay organised, should have the energy and the home advantage to really stay strong out of possession for large periods. I just wonder if Gareth Ainsworth could maybe even switch it up and try and match MK Dons up and play a wing-back system as well. He does have some options to come in and take a place in the back 3. Although I feel like Brandon Hanlon and Anis Mehmeti are both doubts for tonight. They haven't been involved in recent weeks either. And those are 2 players that could really have an impact in this game. Hanlon, particularly with his pace on the counter-attack, could potentially be a decent impact sub if he is able to make the matchday squad. And Mehmeti has been one of their more creative midfielders this season. Probably is a slight upgrade on Daryl Horgan, but I'm sure he'll be able to use his experience to do a good job. So yeah, they have it in them. There's not as much depth of quality, I'd say, depending on whether these players coming back from injury can make the side. But yeah, I do potentially worry about them, and with the wing backs having a big save for MK Dons. They do have a lot to handle with Twine, Parrott and Kasumu playing in a more advanced role as he did in the 5-0 win at Plymouth. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out from a defensive standpoint for Wycombe.
Yeah, as for MK Dons, Billy, they've got massive quality, haven't they, on the ball? You'd imagine that's going to be their key strength and what they're going to utilise to try and beat Wycombe tonight.
Yeah, as you said, I think there's sort of that expectation that what Marcus alluded to, MK Dons will probably dominate the ball. Wycombe will be quite happy with that, with a low block. But when we've come in with a low block, you need to sort of consider the Scott Twine factor. He's a player that we've seen all season. Of course, he's won the Player of the Season award, but he offers so much as an attacker. He's somebody that can get in behind and cause havoc that way. But he's also somebody that can sort of drop in sort of a number 10 role, pick the ball up. And we've seen sort of the goals he has scored this season when he has picked the ball up from 25 yards. He's somebody that offers a massive, massive threat. And he's very, very hard to contain because you just never know where he's going to go. As Marcus said there, Kane Kessler-Hayden as well. The sort of the energy, the final third productivity that he brings. And I think Daniel Harvey as well, he brings sort of a similar service, probably hasn't gained the plaudits that he should have done this season. And again, what Marcus said, Kasumu playing in a little bit of a more advanced role. I think that's been quite a stark contrast to what we've seen this season. He's tended to play in a central midfield or in a holding role, but against Plymouth, he caused a lot of havoc off the ball in terms of pressing a little bit higher and when getting on the ball, keeping things simple. It was a key sort of tactical change that really, really worked. And then defensively speaking, been very, very solid. Got sort of the very, very experienced Dean Lewington in there, but then you've also got sort of Warren O'Hara, Harry Darland represent sort of more youthful options, and Darling in particular, some of the runs he makes forward, he becomes an extra attacker at times. And yes, all these little threats that MK Dons have that makes it sort of overwhelming for defenders to worry about, because it's not just Scott Twine you have to worry about when thinking about MK Dons. They truly do have threats all over the pitch, and you sort of look onto the bench as well, and it doesn't really stop there.
Is there any way you think Wycombe are going to try and get at MK Dons this evening, Billy? Is there any area of that MK Dons team that you think Wycombe might look to exploit?
I guess if you're looking at it as we are here with the probable lineup, a 4-2-3-1 against a 3-5-2, I guess the wing backs and sort of the defensive competence of wing backs could be questioned. Ken Kessler-Hayden and Daniel Harvey have proven to be competent defenders this season, but there's always that gap that sort of the likes of Obita and McCleary or Horgan, if he's on the wing, can look to exploit. I think one sort of key thing has been made, this sort of direct approach, whether MK Dons can deal with this direct approach, especially with sort of a youthful backline in Warren O'Hara and Harry Darling, but looking at how well they've dealt with direct teams this season. I heard on a podcast the other day against the 5 most direct teams in the division, in those 10 games, they only conceded 6 goals. So it's very, very difficult, it seems, to hurt MK Dons in sort of a consistent way. It's just about, again, we come back to this sort of Ainsworth factor, how he sets up for this particular game, because Ainsworth's proven to be a manager that he can deal with the demands of certain games. And I think that could be massive in this tie and going on to the next one too.
Okay, let's take a look at the head-to-heads next. You can see the little pie chart on the right. MK Dons have won 4 of the last 6. Wycombe have won the other 2. But we can take a look at the actual scores as well. If we just flick from one page to the next on who scored. MK Dons have won the last 3, all 3 this season. 2 games in League One and another game in the Johnston Paint Trophy. It's not even called that anymore, is it? It's called Papa John's Trophy. Marcus, we'll come to you first of all. Do you think that will play on Wycombe's minds going into this one?
Not really at all, to be honest. I'm not someone that reads too much into the historic sort of head-to-heads. Looking at those, 5 of the 6 have been decided by just a 1-goal margin, so it is very evenly matched. Wycombe will be relishing this opportunity. I'm sure it'll be a great atmosphere at Adams Park. I do wonder maybe that one way they can get them is just the possible mental doubts that we might have about MK Dons with the lack of experience, having missed out on top 2, whether that will affect them at all. Maybe an early goal for Wycombe could startle them a little bit, but they're just so set in their ways, but almost in a good way. They know exactly their roles within this system. They know how they're going to play. They're not going to change it for any opponent. So I think that's something that they can always just rely on going into this match. So yeah, I think it will be evenly matched as the recent head-to-heads suggest. But I don't think Wycombe will be fearing MK too much. They've earned the right to be in this position, and I'm sure they'll be ready to make the most of it.
Yeah, you can't imagine Gareth Ainsworth is the kind of person that worries about previous results. And on the flip side, though, Billy, MK Dons will know from experience this season that they can go to Adams Park and get a positive result. So in that sense, they at least can go into this game tonight thinking there's no reason why we can't come out of it and set ourselves up to finish the tie off in the second leg.
Yeah, I think probably the recent results make it less of a daunting task going into a playoff semi-final, knowing that they have beaten them twice this season. That could be extra motivation. But yeah, as Marcus says, I'm not too sure how much I'll read into it. As we say, a playoff match is a complete different beast to the league matches that we've seen. And I think MK Dons come into this, and usually when you're the team that play at home for the second leg, you sort of have that sort of certainty that if things don't go right, then you can sort of you can sort of deal with things when you get back home. But MK Dons this season have been against the better sides, have been a lot more dominant away from home. So I think that places a little bit more importance that MK Dons go and do a job tonight. As you say, 3 wins against Wycombe. There's sort of a reason for Gareth Ainsworth to want to try and get revenge, and add to that the rewards of going to Wembley and a possible promotion back to the Championship. It really is going to be a different kind of game than what we've seen sort of pan out in the league matches and in the Papa John's Trophy game.
Certainly expect it to be a tight affair. I think that's fair to say between these two sides. You look at that graphic we just had up. 5 of those 6 games were decided by just the 1 goal. So, Marcus, Billy, time to get score predictions for this first leg. Before we do, we'll just bring Wayne Walden in, who's joined us as ever on YouTube. MK Dons win 3-1. That's what he's backing this evening between these two. Marcus, do you think it'll be as comprehensive as that for MK?
I think it's going to be a lot closer. I feel like Harry Darling has a big role to play. If Wycombe do sit off him and let him join the midfield and offer an extra body in there, then they're going to be in trouble. But I think they will be able to hurt them on the counter-attack eventually. They got some decent players on the bench. I think Sully Kai could be a player to come in and make a decisive contribution, whether that's from the start or off the bench. So I think Wycombe will be able to grab a foothold in the tie to take to Stadium MK. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Maybe MK to take the lead, and then Wycombe to pile on the pressure and take a 1-1 draw to Stadium MK.
Okay, I'm backing MK Dons to do it all and go up to the Championship this year. So I'm going to back them from the very off. I'm going to say 2-1 away victory tonight for the men from Milton Keynes. Billy, how do you see it going?
Exactly the same as you, George. As I said before, I think there's a lot of importance from an MK perspective to take a lead back to Stadium MK. That's not to say they have been bad at home, but comparatively against the top teams, that they've looked a lot sharper and a lot better against them. So I think that they're going to go out and similar to Marcus, I think they'll get the first goal, but I think they'll get a second, and then sort of the Wycombe fight back will come, but it won't be enough. So I'm going to go for 2-1.
Okay, we're all backing a pretty close game. Myself and Billy going for an MK win. Marcus going for a draw. Whatever happens, though, it's surely going to be a tense affair at Adams Park later on this evening. That's it for Under the Microscope this afternoon. Looking at Wycombe v MK Dons. Game kicks off later this evening. Coming up on Football League World TV. One more show this week, and that's tomorrow morning. Under the Microscope again, looking at the other playoff game between Sunderland and Sheffield Wednesday. That's tomorrow night. Alfie Burns hosting that one. Toby Wilding and Adam Jones will be joining him. Marcus, Billy, great to get your thoughts as ever. Looking at this game. Tonight should be a real cracker between these two as the playoffs get underway. Always an exciting time of the season. Do keep across footballleagueworld.co.uk. We'll have plenty of action from all the playoff games over the next few weeks. But from myself, Marcus and Billy, it's bye for now.